Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ibrahim Traore.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished delegates, brothers and sisters of the international community, I thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak before this assembly. I do not come here to provoke nor to accuse, but to tell the truth, a truth that too many have chosen to ignore. I come here not as a politician seeking favor, but as a soldier of my people, carrying their voice, their pain, and their pride. I speak today for those who have no seat in this hall. The farmers, the miners, the workers, the mothers who still believe that justice is not just a word. So listen carefully, not to me, but to the spirit of a continent that has waited too long to be heard. They seized our gold, $300 million worth of sweat and soil from the hands of my people, and they call it procedure. They call it international regulation. No, it is theft. A new form of colonial robbery dressed in the language of finance. Do they think Burkina Faso is blind? Do they think because we are poor, we are foolish? That because we don't wear their suits or speak their accents, we cannot see the game? They stole from us, and then they tell the world it is for investigation. Investigation of what? That an African nation dares to trade without their permission? For decades, our gold has left our land in silence. Ships full of it sailed west while our villages stayed dark. Children died of hunger while our minerals filled foreign banks. We were told it was the price of stability, but I tell you today that price is over. When I hear that our gold is seized in Europe, I do not hear bureaucracy. I hear the same chains our ancestors wore, only now they shine like polished metal instead of iron. And I swear we will break them again. You hide behind your acronyms, IMF, EU, WTO, institutions that speak of order while enforcing plunder. You sanction us for defending ourselves, you freeze our assets for choosing sovereignty, and you pretend it is justice. Number. It is cowardice. It is fear. Fear of an Africa that wakes up and refuses to kneel. Let the world hear me clearly. Burkina Faso does not beg. We do not plead for crumbs at your tables. If you take our gold, we will mine another. If you block our ports, we will build our own roads. And if you call us rebels for defending what is ours, then we will wear that name proudly. This act of seizure will not weaken us. It will unite us. It will remind every African miner, farmer, and soldier why we fight. The real enemy does not live across our borders. It lives inside every system that profits from our poverty. You wanted to humiliate us. Instead, you exposed yourselves. You wanted to show the world that we are small. But today, it is your fear that looks small. Your fear of a continent that finally remembers its worth. Keep your gold for now, but know this. The day will come when Africa will not need your ports, your banks, or your permission. And on that day, the world will remember who truly owned the riches you once stole. They think seizing our gold will make us bow. They think cutting our trade, freezing our accounts will make us crawl back and ask for mercy. But mercy is not something we seek from those who have stolen our blood for centuries. Mercy is something we reserve for the innocent, not the thieves who wear suits and call themselves civilized. Let them keep their stolen shipment in their cold ports. It glitters in their vaults, but it burns in their conscience. Every bar of that gold carries the fingerprints of Burkina Faso miners, men who work with bare hands, without machines, without sleep, with faith that someday their labor will serve their own children, not foreign masters. And now those same hands are clenched into fists. I hear them whisper that Traore is reckless, that Traore does not understand diplomacy. They mistake our patience for ignorance. I do not need lessons in diplomacy from men whose idea of peace is submission, whose idea of progress is our dependence. They have taken everything from Africa, our minerals, our land, our pride, and still they dare to speak of law. Tell me, what law allows you to rob a nation and call it reform? What justice allows you to steal from the poor and call it debt recovery? You do not follow law, you follow greed. I am not here to comfort them with politeness. I am here to confront them with truth, because truth, like gold, cannot be hidden forever. When they seized our gold, they did not just take metal, they took trust. They reminded us that no treaty, no handshake, no polite meeting in Geneva can protect an African nation from Western hunger. So now we will rely on something stronger than their signatures. We will rely on our unity. Burkina Faso will not die begging for access to its own wealth. We will mine again, refine again, and if we must, we will trade with those who respect us, not those who enslave us with contracts. They can control their ports, but they cannot control our spirit. They can freeze accounts, but they cannot freeze will. They can seize our gold, but they cannot seize our fire. I speak not only for Burkina Faso, but for every African nation that has felt the cold hand of exploitation disguised as partnership. Our silence has ended, our patience is gone, and to those who sit comfortably in their marble offices, laughing at another African struggle, remember this. You cannot bankrupt a people who have already paid in blood. Keep watching your ships, your markets, your currencies, because the day will come when Africa stops exporting gold and starts exporting power. Brothers and sisters of Burkina Faso, my fellow Africans, listen to me well. They have taken our gold, but they have not taken our future. They have frozen our shipment, but they cannot freeze our courage. They have mocked us in their press, called us reckless, called us radicals. But let me tell you what is truly radical: to believe that the chains of colonization can last forever. The same hands that mined that gold will now build our tomorrow. The same hearts that bled under their sanctions will now beat for our freedom. They think they have punished us, but in truth they have awakened us. When I look at the young miners in Kaya, the farmers in Kudugu, the soldiers standing at our borders, I see faces that refuse to bow. We may not have their wealth, their weapons, or their banks, but we have something stronger. We have will, we have unity. And when a people stand together, no empire can bury them. They say Burkina Faso will suffer for resisting. Maybe we will, but I would rather suffer standing up than live kneeling before thieves. I would rather starve in dignity than feast in shame. We are not fighting against nations. We are fighting against a system that has turned our natural wealth into their political weapon. Today it is gold. Tomorrow it will be oil or cotton or land. They use the IMF as their mask, the EU as their weapon, and the dollar as their leash. But that leash breaks the moment we decide to stop obeying. Africa must understand this. No single nation can fight alone. Not Burkina Faso, not Mali, not Niger, not Congo. They will try to isolate us, divide us, label us as dangerous. But when Africa unites, truly unites, their fear becomes visible. You can see it in their eyes when we speak with confidence. You can hear it in their voices when we refuse their aid. So, I say to my brothers and sisters across the continent, stop asking for permission to breathe. Stop signing contracts that sell your children's future for coins. We are rich, richer than they will ever admit. Our minerals, our land, our youth, our spirit, these are treasures greater than any bank vault. If they call me defiant, so be it. If they call us rebels, we wear that name with honor. For rebellion against injustice is not crime, it is duty. Burkina Faso will not apologize for defending its gold, its people, or its pride. The time of begging has ended. The time of building has begun. Let them keep our gold. We will forge a new Africa, one that no one can seize. To those in the West who call themselves our partners, I have one message for you. Your partnership ends the day it becomes a weapon. Your friendship ends the day it turns into control. We have watched your empires disguise theft as cooperation. You smile in our conferences while tightening the rope around our economies. You lecture us on democracy while financing our dictators. You speak of peace while selling weapons to our enemies. Enough. You seized our gold in your ports, pretending it was justice. But justice is not yours to define. You who once colonized our lands, you who drew our borders with ink and blood, you will not lecture us about legality. You say we broke your rules. Yes, we did, because your rules were made to keep us poor. You fear an Africa that controls its own wealth. You fear an Africa that trades with itself, that refines its own gold, that grows its own food, that speaks with one voice. You fear this because you know that the moment Africa stands on its feet, your profits collapse, your illusion of superiority dies, and your century of dominance ends. You accuse us of turning east, of looking to new partners. But who turned their backs first? When we asked for fair trade, you gave us loans. When we asked for factories, you sent soldiers. When we asked for peace, you gave us sanctions. Do not pretend to be surprised now that we choose our own path. I do not hate the West. I hate its hypocrisy. I hate the way it preaches freedom while practicing manipulation. You wanted to seize our gold to remind us who controls the game. But listen carefully. The game is changing, and Africa is no longer your pawn. The youth of Africa have awakened. They see your lies on their screens, they hear your promises, and they laugh. They do not want visas, they want vision. They do not want to flee their land, they want to rebuild it. And I, as one of them, will not rest until that vision becomes real. If you call this speech aggression, so be it, because silence would be betrayal. For too long, we were told to wait, to be patient, to follow the system, to trust the IMF, to obey your orders. But waiting has only brought us poverty. Obedience has only brought us chains. Now we are done waiting. We are done obeying. Take our gold, take our assets, take whatever you wish. But you cannot take our destiny. That belongs to us now, and it will never again be signed away in your boardrooms. To my brothers and sisters who lead nations across Africa, listen to me not as a soldier, but as a son of this continent. I do not stand above you, I stand among you. I know the pressure they place on you, the threats, the loans, the promises whispered behind closed doors. I know how they divide us, one country against another, until we forget that our chains are forged from the same metal. But now is the time to remember who we are. We are not weak states scattered across a map drawn by colonizers. We are a continent, vast, rich, and young. Our people are not liabilities, they are the future. And that future will never come if we continue begging for approval from those who built their wealth on our poverty. How long will we let the IMF dictate the price of our own resources? How long will we sign contracts that strip us of our gold, our oil, our water, our dignity? We talk of independence, yet we borrow permission for every decision we make. My message to you is simple. Stop borrowing your freedom. I do not ask you to fight with weapons, but with will. Stop exporting our wealth unrefined. Stop letting others set the value of our labor. Stop fearing their sanctions. They are only as strong as our obedience. The moment we refuse, their system collapses. When the EU seized our gold, they thought they were punishing Burkina Faso. In truth, they punished the illusion that Africa is powerless. And now, every African leader must choose. Do you stand with the old system, or do you stand with your people? Mali, Niger, Guinea, Congo, Ghana, all of us face the same enemy. Dependency. They have different flags and different names, but their goal is the same, to keep us divided and indebted. That is why I say the time of alliances through fear has ended. The time of alliances through strength begins now. Let us build our own bank, our own reserve, our own trade routes. Let us control our gold, our oil, our gas, our land. Let us trade in our own currencies, made from the sweat of our people, not the permission of the West. They will call us rebels. Let them. Every revolution begins with rebellion. They will call us unstable. Let them. True stability comes only when you own your destiny. I say this not as an enemy of the world, but as a defender of Africa. And I call upon every leader, from the shores of Dakar to the mountains of Ethiopia, rise with us. Because if we do not stand together today, they will pick us apart tomorrow. To the young men and women of Africa, I speak to you now. You are not the future. You are the present. You are the breath that keeps this continent alive. You are the fire that no empire can extinguish. They say Africa is poor, yet you hold more strength in your hands than their machines, more courage in your hearts than their armies. You are told to leave your homes, to chase dreams in foreign lands, to beg for visas and jobs that will never value your worth. But I say to you, do not run, do not flee. Build here, fight here, rise here. They fear you, young African. They fear your intelligence, your unity, your refusal to be silent. That is why they flood your minds with hopelessness. That is why they fill your feeds with distractions and lies to make you forget who you are. They do not want you to remember that the same soil beneath your feet once birthed empires that taught the world civilization. You are the descendants of kings and queens, of warriors and thinkers. Your ancestors mined the first gold, wrote the first scripts, charted the first stars. Do not let anyone tell you that your destiny is to serve. Your destiny is to lead. The West builds its wealth on your talent. They want your engineers, your doctors, your coders, your artists, not because they love you, but because they fear what you could build if you stayed home. So I say stay. Plant your ideas in African soil. Code your future in African networks. Teach your children the truth, that they are heirs of greatness, not refugees of poverty. I do not promise you an easy path. I will not lie. The road ahead is hard. You will face sanctions, propaganda, even betrayal. But every generation has its war, and this one is yours. Not a war of bullets, but of vision. Not a war of conquest, but of creation. Build the Africa they said could never exist, one that makes its own tools, refines its own gold, tells its own stories, and sets its own price for its labor. Create, invent, and dream louder than their noise. When they tell you that you are too young to lead, remember that I was young when I chose to stand, and I will never stop standing because I see what you can become. You are the storm they tried to prevent. You are the tomorrow they cannot control. So rise, rise like the sun over the Sahel, and let your light blind every shadow that has ever tried to hide our greatness. To my soldiers, my brothers in arms, and to every worker who wakes before dawn, you are the backbone of this revolution. You are the hands that feed this land, the shoulders that carry its weight, the guardians of its soul. When they talk about Burkina Faso, they speak of poverty. But I look at you and I see wealth, not in money, but in courage. You, the farmer who tills the soil under the sun, you are a soldier. You fight hunger with your bare hands. You, the miner who digs through darkness to bring light to your family, you are a soldier. You fight despair with faith. You, the teacher, the nurse, the driver, the mother, you are soldiers too. Every act of labor, every moment of sacrifice is part of this struggle for sovereignty. The West believes we only know how to fight with guns, but we will prove that the greatest weapon of a people is their unity. Our fight is not just on the battlefield. It is in our farms, our schools, our markets, our workshops. Every product made in Burkina Faso is a bullet of resistance. Every harvest, every brick, every book written by our own hands, that is victory. To my soldiers in uniform, remember why you wear that cloth. It is not for power or privilege. It is for duty. The rifle you carry is not just metal. It is a promise to your people that their children will not live in fear. Never forget, we do not fight to conquer, we fight to defend. We do not seek war, but we will never flee from it. They call us radicals because we do not obey. But what is obedience to oppression? What is peace without dignity? I tell you, better to live one day in freedom than 100 years in chains. Stand tall, soldiers of Burkina Faso. The world is watching, but more importantly, your people are watching. They trust you not just to protect them, but to inspire them. You are not just an army. You are the embodiment of a nation that refuses to die quietly. And to every worker, every laborer who builds this land, your sweat is gold. Do not think your contribution is small. The soldier defends with a rifle, you defend with your craft. Together, we forge a country that no one can seize. We are the generation that will not trade pride for aid. We are the guardians of Africa's awakening. Let the world call us rebels. History will call us free. There are nights when the world grows quiet and I sit alone with my thoughts. The shouting of the assembly fades, the noise of politics disappears, and all that remains is silence, the silence of responsibility. I think of the men who came before me, the ones who tried to rise but were silenced by bullets, by bribes, by betrayal. And I ask myself, will I meet the same fate? Yes, I know what they whisper. They say Traore is young, reckless, untrained in the games of diplomacy. But tell me, what has diplomacy given us except exploitation disguised as friendship? I do not wish to play their game. I wish to end it. Leadership is not glory. It is weight. It is sleepless nights, empty stomachs, and the fear that every decision could cost lives. It is standing tall while knowing that you are marked. It is smiling to give your people hope while carrying the grief of soldiers who never returned. But when I walk through our streets, when I see the eyes of children who believe again, when I hear the laughter of miners returning home after weeks underground, that weight feels lighter. Because it reminds me that what we fight for is not power, but peace with dignity. They think leadership is about negotiation tables and handshakes. No, leadership, real leadership, is about sacrifice. It is about being willing to lose everything so your people can win something. I did not come into power for comfort. I came because I saw my country bleeding. And when you see your motherland wounded, you do not walk away. You fight. There are moments I fear what lies ahead. I know they are plotting. The bankers, the diplomats, the shadowed rooms where decisions are made. They think they can break us through sanctions or bullets, but they do not understand the African spirit. You cannot break what was born from struggle. If tomorrow they take me, let them. I am not afraid, because this fight is no longer about me. It is about every African who refuses to bow. You can kill a man, but you cannot kill an idea whose time has come. So I tell my people, if my voice is ever silenced, let yours grow louder. If my footsteps stop, let yours continue. If they bury me, let my dream be the seed that grows into 1,000 more. We are not fighting for one man. We are fighting for a generation, for Africa's soul. To the journalists who sit in their clean studios, thousands of miles away, writing about us as if we are children, I speak to you now. You call me dangerous, unpredictable, a threat to democracy. But you do not understand danger. Danger is not a soldier who refuses to kneel. Danger is a system that feeds off human misery and calls it progress. You turn your cameras on us only when there is war, never when there is harvest. You film our hunger, but not our strength. You photograph our poverty, but never our pride. You twist every African story into tragedy, every leader into a villain, every rebellion into chaos, because you fear an Africa that defines itself. You ask me about human rights. I ask you, where were your rights when our gold was stolen, when our oil was taken, when your companies bled our lands dry? Where were your rights when your governments armed those who killed our people? You speak of law, yet your banks hide the wealth stolen from Africa for generations. You preach morality, yet your silence has always protected thieves. You love to call me anti-West, but I am not against the West. I am against hypocrisy. I am against nations that speak of peace while building bombs. I am against leaders who talk of equality while sitting on thrones made from our stolen resources. You show your people edited clips, short bursts of anger without the truth that fuels it. You show them my face, but not my cause. You call me a dictator, but never a defender. You label me militant, but never mention that the war I fight was brought to my door by your weapons and your greed. You do not tell your viewers that Burkina Faso's gold, seized in your ports, belongs to farmers who cannot afford bread. You do not say that the IMF's conditions are chains. You do not say that we are punished not for corruption but for courage, because to you a free Africa is more terrifying than a poor one. But know this, your lies are losing power. The world is changing. Africans read your headlines and laugh now. We know who you serve. We see through your smiles. You can twist our image, but you cannot erase our awakening. To the honest journalists who still seek truth, come and see us with your own eyes. Come walk our streets, speak to our people, see our struggle. But do not come with pity, come with respect. History will remember those who told the truth and those who sold it. And when that history is written, Africa will not need your permission to tell its story. I have spoken of our struggle, of the pain, of the humiliation, of the theft that has stained our soil for centuries. But tonight, I want to speak of the dawn that is coming, the Africa that will rise. I see an Africa where no child goes to bed hungry while ships sail away with our harvest. An Africa that refines its own gold, drills its own oil, builds its own machines, and educates its own sons and daughters with pride. An Africa that no longer begs for aid wrapped in conditions. An Africa that lends, that trades, that leads. We will create banks that belong to our people, not to the IMF. We will build roads that connect our nations, not pipelines that drain our wealth. We will use our resources not as gifts to others, but as foundations for our freedom. This is not a dream, it is a duty. I know they will call this vision impossible. They called every revolution impossible until it succeeded. They said Africa could not stand without their guidance, yet here we are standing. They said our nations would collapse if we left their control, yet we are alive and growing stronger. The West fears this new Africa because they know what it means. It means their centuries of monopoly will crumble. It means their false charity will be exposed. It means their control will end. But our rise is not vengeance, it is balance. We do not seek to conquer, we seek to correct. We do not wish to destroy, we wish to rebuild. The youth will power it with innovation. The women will lead it with wisdom. The workers will shape it with their hands. And the soldiers will guard it with honor. This Africa will speak with one voice, a voice that demands partnership, not pity, a voice that will never again say, "Thank you for giving us what was already ours." And to those who still doubt, I say this: every empire that tried to own Africa has fallen. We have buried them all in the sand of time. We will bury this system too, not with guns, but with unity, with courage, and with truth. I may not live to see the full dawn of this new Africa, but I have seen its light. It burns in our people's eyes, in their silence that has turned into strength. And when that sun finally rises over our continent, no one will ever again call us poor. They will call us what we have always been, free. To the world that watches us, I have one last thing to say. You have called us rebels, radicals, threats to your order. But if defending our freedom makes us dangerous, then so be it. Because I was not born to manage your comfort, I was born to defend my people's dignity. You study us through your reports, you measure us through your ratings, you judge us through your media, but you will never understand us through numbers and charts. You will understand us only when you stand barefoot in our dust, when you feel the heat of our sun, when you look into the eyes of a mother who feeds her child with hope alone. Then maybe you will understand why Africa refuses to kneel. I have spoken my truth, not to win applause, but to awaken conscience. I do not need your approval. I do not need your loans. I do not need your permission to love my country. What I need, what every African needs, is space to breathe without being strangled by debt, to trade without being robbed, to live without being told who we must be. You say we are isolating ourselves, but it is you who isolated us centuries ago when you built your empires on our bones. You say we reject cooperation. No, we reject domination. We want partnership, not pity, respect, not charity. If the price of independence is rejection, we accept it. If the price of sovereignty is hardship, we embrace it. Because hardship passes, but humiliation lasts forever. To the people of the world who still have hearts unpoisoned by greed, look at us not as enemies, but as mirrors. Our fight is your fight too, because the same system that exploits Africa also exploits your workers, your farmers, your poor. The same elites who silence us silence you in different tongues. Remember that. Burkina Faso stands today not because we are strong, but because we are unafraid. And fear, once lost, cannot be returned. You can freeze our gold, you can threaten our leaders, but you cannot freeze an idea whose time has come. This is my final message to those who still believe Africa will always be a follower. Watch the horizon. The storm that you fear has already begun, and it does not carry destruction, it carries rebirth. When history looks back on this moment, they will not speak of sanctions or seizures. They will speak of the day Africa remembered itself. And when my voice fades, when my flag is carried by hands younger than mine, I will rest knowing that I lived not as their servant, but as my people's shield. Burkina Faso will rise, Africa will rise, and when we rise, the world will finally see what freedom truly looks like. They thought seizing our gold would silence us, but they forgot Africa was forged in fire. We have buried empires before, and we will bury injustice again. The struggle is not for one nation nor one leader. It is for every African child who deserves to rise without chains. Let them call us rebels. Let them call us dangerous. History will call us free. When the dust settles, the world will remember not the gold they stole, but the voice that refused to bow, the voice of a continent that finally remembered itself.